of adolescents, newborns, maternal health, and lead poisoning awareness, and that's what we have been doing in the last 3 or so weeks, and we will continue to do so in the next few weeks relative to the issues under the GBC and UNICEF collaboration to bring to the fore matters affecting these thematic areas I have already mentioned: adolescents, newborns, maternal health, and lead poisoning awareness. Tonight we will focus on, of course, communication. What are some of the things that we need to do in order to get people to come along even as we pursue that journey towards change? Now, I'll tell you that changing long-held attitudes take real effort. Now, with all the social challenges that we talk about, for example, teenage pregnancy, wrong attitude to mental health issues, and menstrual hygiene, among others, we need to package information that suits the needs of the targeted population. Now, they must have a buy-in. Naturally, we do not expect an immediate change, but those who understand to gradually follow the development option. Being able to adequately relay the message for the needed impact is based on effective communication for change, also known as C4D. What makes this communication effective? Well, tonight, on Moomen Tonight, we will explore what can be done to help. Our guest is a communicator herself, but she does her communication targeted at getting people to change their attitude. Charity Nikwe is my guest for tonight. Charity is a C4D officer with UNICEF right here in Accra. Many thanks, Charity, for accepting our invitation here. We are very, very grateful to have you. How has your day been? I guess you've been busy changing attitudes, have you?
Yes. We've been busy trying to get some materials and communication assets to support the issues that you just mentioned. So I'm just coming from my colleagues in the health promotion department. They are in Hill Palace in Pedriase doing this work. So I just had to move.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
But even before we get into the meat of tonight's discussion, I'm looking at what you do, communication for change. You know, we live in a country where culture and traditions are the things that we value the most. And people tell you that culture is what we have done over the years. I mean, married with tradition, what we have done over the years. And just even this evening in our newsroom, we're having a discussion because one of our news items captured a community where they needed to construct a road, and yet the persons who occupied portions of the land where the road had to pass by, despite the fact that government had promised them, we will move you, we will give you accommodation and provide you with amenities that you do not have even in your present location. They said, no, we won't move. We've lived here for over 200 years. This is our ancestral home. We will not change. We will not move. I'm saying, so you work within an environment where you have to deal with such characters almost on a daily basis. How is it for you?
Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. It becomes easy when the people start the process with you. It is difficult when, as formal people, we sit somewhere and decide we want this in this community. And we are now going to tell the people. I'll say they really like it when you go, you ask them what the problem is, and then you try to solve the issue with them together. So we are together in this. When we come, they call us the Accra people. When the Accra people come, it's like they are coming to impose on them. And then there's a lot of resistance. In that case, we have to do a lot of negotiations okay, so that they will get the buy-in. They will understand from our side. We will also understand from their side the local context, why they will not move, some of their belief system, how can we have a middle ground, and then everybody will be happy. Okay. If it's not life-threatening, then there's no point in putting like pressure or regulation on it. But if it is, somebody will lose their life, then we have to bring in regulation for them to move or shift their position.
Then that brings me to my next question then. What do you do as someone who describes yourself as a development communicator?
Okay, so our communication for development is a little bit different from normal communication.
Right.
It is changing normally negative behavior or attitude or norm to a desired or positive one. We would like to bring everybody on board from the beginning. It deals with negotiation. It is systematic. It is evidence-based. So before you even start the communication, you have data that you have either gathered or from existing desk reviews, or you have to do like a research to find the evidence on the ground. And those are some of the things that you present to your audience. And then also you have to do consultations with all the audiences involved. Then you have to look at the local context in which you want to institute this change. So, for instance, if you remember, we were using postpaid before.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then we've changed to prepaid. So
and you're talking about electricity.
Electricity.
Right.
So I met one of the gentlemen and I said, you didn't do well at all. This was in my area. Because I was out and my children called me and said, oh, they have changed the light and they didn't put much on it and it's gone. So I called and they gave me a number. So I called them and I said, why did you do the consultation? Then he went like, oh, we were supposed to do consultation, but your area, the people are difficult. So they won't listen. So he has jumped, in this case, he has jumped one of the processes. So that people will never listen, even if you have something good for them. And then what we have also realized is that when it will cost them money, when it will cost the participant group money, the change, you have to really negotiate for it. Okay. So in this case, look, prepaid, it means they have to pay before they get the electricity. So you have to do a lot of dialoguing and then tell them the benefits that they will receive. Then you have to look for the best channel that suits them. In the meeting that I'm coming from, we are talking about lead poison. During the stakeholder consultations, they said, you can't talk to us on TV. We will not see or hear. We want our communication to be through CIC. That is the megaphone that are mounted in the communities.
Yes.
So you choose the best channels and you have to talk to us through our leaders. When they talk, we will listen. So in this case, you have to do interpersonal communication, that is their best and things, and do the education amongst them, and then they will listen. So we cannot just be in our office and then decide that, okay, so we'll do TV, that, and then people will change. It's very difficult. They will not. Sometimes you have to do even demonstration of how the thing will work. Otherwise, they will not come with you.
So, wow, I'm happy you are having discussions on lead poisoning already, but still focusing on your role as, and I'm not talking about you as a person, but the general practitioners, as development communicators. So let's pick adolescent reproductive health, for example, and specifically speak to the issue of teenage pregnancy. For as long as I can remember, growing up as a teenager, even before I became a teenager, there were adverts on TV. Teenagers should refrain from having sex so they don't get pregnant. There was even a movie, Harvest at 17, that spoke about the consequences of becoming pregnant whilst a teenager, and so on and so forth. A couple of weeks ago, we had a conversation, and it emerges from that conversation that teenage pregnancy is actually on the ascendancy. So you are talking, you are communicating, but they are not listening. Is that what it is?
Not really. So I have talked about the evidence. Now I think in Ghana we are generating a lot of evidence, data. We used to have a lot of stories to back our things and not numbers. But we have to know that our qualitative stories go with the quantitative, that's the data to really back it. Then also we have what we call in our communication for change influencers. So we tend to focus more on the teenagers, that's the adolescents, and leave out the adults. Even if we talk to adults, we just tell them, we don't discuss with them. So we tell them, talk to your children not to have sex or abstain until they are old enough to make the right decision. But how do they do it? Nobody's teaching them. People are shying away from them. And then they don't have the practical experience of how to initiate the conversation. So the conversation never happens. Even if the adolescent is bold enough and goes to a health facility, unless that facility person is trained, they cannot initiate the conversation. The next person who will meet them will say, oh, go away, we are not up to. But young people are hungry for information. We are in the era where information is thrown everywhere and anywhere, so they will always find it. If we want to do this, we have to do it together. I talked about audience segmentation. We have parents, we have teachers, we have nurses, we have religious leaders, and we have grandmothers, we have traditional leaders. All these people have to play a part in our talk for adolescent pregnancy. Today I heard a funny story when I went to, we were doing this work. And then one of the ladies told me that we have instituted adolescent mothers going back to school. It's a very nice program.
Right.
But those who are not pregnant see these girls coming back to school, and then NGOs come and donate to the girls so that they and their babies will be comfortable. So in a way, we are trying to make them comfortable, but at the same time, we are attracting those who are trying to abstain. And if you don't coach or talk to those who are abstaining very well and involve even all these stakeholders I've talked about, they will also fall because of what they think their friends are getting. Okay. And normally, I mean, we always want to paint the nice picture, so their friends will not even tell them all the challenges they are facing in raising a child at that young age. Yes. So it's a corporate thing that everybody in the community must be in. If we leave somebody out, then we are not doing our work very well. For all the things that we do, be it maternal health or child health, we try to, as much as possible, engage all the stakeholders that are involved in this. When you take immunization, for instance, you engage the mother, You also engage the father, because in certain communities, the father will say, you can't take my child to the clinic. Or even the grandmother will say, you can't take my grandchild to the clinic. You engage the religious leaders. If they don't hear it at the market, they might hear it at their church or their mosques. You engage the traditional leaders who has huge respect in the community, so that he will also put in a word for you. Okay, so everybody is involved. In certain communities, it's even the traditional leader who organizes them during the child welfare clinics for them to come for their immunizations. And that is a plus for that community. Your chief or your queen mother is calling you. Who are you to say you won't go? If it's just the nurses, they might say they are not coming. They are going to market, or they are going to do their business. And so it's a corporate thing. It's a social thing that all of us must talk about.
And we are talking about it, but let me give you a scenario here, and I'm sure you've heard about the phenomenon in parts of northern Ghana. It's called the spirit child, where, and if you haven't heard, I will explain. This is in some communities here right here in Ghana. What happens is, when a woman gives birth and the family discovers that the child has some disability, visually impaired or physically disabled, the child is tagged as a spirit child, a child who has come with some bad spirit and therefore needs to be killed. A number of journalists have done stories around that, and personally I have been to those areas, and this is what I discovered. There's no spirit. It is just the fact that when the women are pregnant, because of the lack of finances, they don't have money, so they don't even go for antenatal care. Even to afford 10 cedis to go and register on the National Health Insurance Scheme, it's a problem. I mean, 10 cedis is a big deal in some of these communities. You've been around, I know you know this for a fact. And so once they are unable to go for checkup, certainly sometimes things go wrong and they deliver these children, and the children are physically disabled. I mean, and they are tagged as evil spirits and killed. Clearly that is a health issue. Okay, in such communities, if you go there, what kind of strategy would you use to get them to understand, like I have explained, that look, indeed you have been believing in certain evil spirits for so long a time, but actually those spirits do not exist. If at all, the spirits exist in the fact that you husbands do not support your wives when they are pregnant.
I like the fact that you said husbands are not supportive. It's not just about husband. It's a whole pack of influencers who have to support the primary person, that's the pregnant person, to be able to access the facility. Yes, we talked about 10 cities, but I also know that the Ghana Health Service has policies backed by government where pregnant women don't have to pay anything for registration, okay? Especially when the health workers are coming to the community, but sometimes they don't also come. From their side, they will say, when we come, we don't get anybody coming. So they come for 2-3 months, and sometimes they go every week, and nobody is coming for 3 months. So it's either the people are going to the next village for their antenatal. That's the assumption, okay? Ideally, every community should have a health volunteer who lives there with them, so he or she knows the pregnant women there, the children under 5 there, and children or anybody with a disability challenge, okay, like a health challenge. Yes. So that when there's anything that is coming from either the sub-district or the district parts, this person will liaise with the community volunteer, and then he or she will go around and get these vulnerable people around to access the service. But not every community has that. Sometimes they will pick the person and then he or she abandons posts, or that person passes on and they don't replace, or that person even moves to a bigger town, and so there's no replacements, and the nurses are changed, and they don't also find out who is in charge. So there's that communication gap. That is why I said from the beginning that it is a communal thing. In certain communities that are also encountered in the northern part, they have a community scoreboard where they have health, they have education, and all the indicators are on that board. Every month they hold a meeting to see where they are going. Is everybody getting their vaccine? Is everybody going for antenatal? Is everybody a child in school? How are they doing in terms of the education and all that? And the chief is leading, or the queen mother is leading, or the assemblyman is leading this, because at the end of the day, it is their community. If you don't see it as that, and it is each one for himself, God for us all, then it becomes very difficult. When you get to a community like that, let's get it as it is our community. You get people who will testify that this is not spirits, okay? So the behavior change thing has stages. There are people who don't know at all. There are people who have doubts. There are people who have experienced the change, and there are people who are ready to share the change. In this case, the experience and ready to share will be the best. The experience is the best teacher. If you get somebody like them who is talking to them about it, showing them that this is my child, he was born maybe with a sight challenge, but he or she is able to do ABC, and we are fine with it, and it's not any spirit. Sometimes it helps than I going to tell them. I'm not with them in their community. The familiarity is also key. One of the strategies we use is drama. The people pick the drama actors from the community, so that it is Kojo who is doing it. I know Kojo will do it. I can also do it. Amma is the one playing this part. Okay, if she's doing it, then I should also try and do it. Okay, but from an outsider, it becomes more like an entertainment. or if it's not even an entertainment, then it's like, oh, because she's from Accra, because she's from Kumasi, that's why she's able to do it. The people in this place, they can't do it, you know. So it's from within.
All right. So I'm sure as you even go around doing your work, especially in some of the remotest rural areas, you've also come across some challenges despite you using these best strategic practices. Tell me some of these challenges.
Oh, plenty. Some of the challenges are structural. There's nothing we can do about it. We can only talk. Let me give you a typical example. We go to a place and we are talking about polio. It is sanitation, and then it is water, cleanliness, okay? The people don't have water. So the little water they have, they manage it somehow. The sanitation is not so good. They will try, but if they don't really have help from their assembly to put the refuse, dispose of it properly, then we are stuck. We are talking about hand washing in public places. I mean, in COVID. You see, government had to put hand washing facilities together with NGOs in all public spaces. Some assemblies had to really construct tanks and all that, so that the water will be there. If the water is not there, we will try for the few, and I think it's even gotten there. We'll try for the few days, weeks, months, wash our hands, and then the next we get tired. Behavior change is not easy. You have to do it over and over, regular and continuously, to be able for it to become part of you. Okay, so now we have all stopped washing our hands. You go to a lot of the places, the facility is there, but there's no water, or there's water, there's no soap, and then, or even the two are there, you are passing and the security is also watching you pass, because we
back to normal, even though we are still not in normal times. Yeah.
So so
then how do you explain how we got back to this attitude when at a certain point, even without any prompting, the most recalcitrant of us was washing hands and using the hand sanitizer? There was a point in 2020 when everybody, almost everybody, at least in Accra, Kumasi, and some of these affected areas, we washed our hands, we sanitized our hands. How did we change from not washing to washing and then back to not washing?
And I was happy when you were washing your hands. I've been talking about hand washing, promoting hand washing for, close to 10 years or more. And we haven't gone beyond 50 something. But all of a sudden, we're at almost 80, whatever, percent. But everybody was washing. I was so happy. But then we also knew that if we are not able to do it continuously for like 3 years, we'll be back to normal. So sometimes you have to add some enforcement to it. But of course, hand washing, the people are doing it in their house, so how do you enforce it? You can only enforce it at the public spaces. So you see that you go to the bank, they ask you to wash your hands. You go to a public space, they say wash your hands before you enter. If we continue with that, it will help a little bit. We always say children are change agents, okay? But children watch us. So what the adults are doing is what they will do. So if we put it there and say wash your hands, when we are there we say wash your hands, we'll wash. But if we are not there, because we are not washing, one of the things that this hand washing has done for us is that the Director General for Ghana Health Service tells us that at least we have been able to keep cholera at bay. As of last year, we didn't have any case.
True.
This year, I have not heard anything also. So we should all note that hand washing is one of the most effective ways of dealing with diseases and germs, and it's low cost also. Now the wash team has devised the tippy tap, which uses less water, so that everybody will be able to wash their hands properly under running water with soap, with the little water you have. And I don't know whether a lot of people know the tippy tap, but it's on the UNICEF website. It's just a small gallon with a small hole, and you press it and the water comes small, and then you use it to wash. It's like a tap under running water, and it's very effective.
Somebody says, what type of water will be running from the tippy tap? Because sometimes the sources from which people even get water it's deplorable. You know this, we've been to several communities where people drink water from the same source as that which animals in the same community drink from. The animals step in the water, the people step in the water. Sometimes you, at one end of the stream or the dam, people are washing, at another end some are fetching to go home and cook and use for other domestic purposes. It's the same water. It's dirty water you're asking us to use to wash in the first place. I mean, so when you face a community like that also, that's the challenge. You have the right message. The people are probably even willing to listen to the message, but how to practicalize it then becomes a problem.
Yes. Like I said, children are change agents. We encountered the same thing in Central Region, somewhere in Central Region, some years ago, where the children have been taught to use safe water. In this country, my watch colleagues will tell you, we talk about safe water, not clean water, because some of the water may look, the color is not so like what is in the bottle, but you can make it safe, so you use it.
Right.
The children were very enthusiastic about it. They went home, they practiced it, but along the line, they bring in the water and they want to make it safe by boiling and all that, and their parents think it's too tedious. So one of the things also about change is that if the process is cumbersome, then people are very reluctant to shift. Okay, so in our communication we try to make the process as simple as possible. So for instance, getting water from the water place, wherever you are fetching the water from, you know, they will normally not fetch at the banks. They will go in a little bit and get as safe as possible. And we are advising that the way you even carry the water, maybe you can even get a clean one from a tap, but as you are walking, your hand is holding the pan is not covered, and so you're already contaminating the water. So from the source to your house, you have to safeguard the water so that it is safe. So you see a lot of people change from the pan to the gallon where it is closed. Right. So whatever you fetch is what, the clean one you fetch or the safe one you fetch is what will get to your house. Okay, then the storage part comes in. How do you store it and all that? Okay, people are taught or demonstrated, and you have community people who lead these things. So for a lot of the change to happen, it depends on communities.
You have been working with the UN. I mean, you work with the UNICEF, which is an agency under the UN, and so I'd like us to start from Ghana and probably expand and look at what you do across the globe as well, using these strategies you've been enumerating. What are some of the tangibles we can point to in Ghana in respect of the work you have been doing and the successes you've chalked up so far?
Okay, so at a point, for every review that I went to, malaria was part of the first, I'll say first three OPD diseases that people present, and we had close to 40%.
Just on the right side, this afternoon I thought I had malaria until I had 2 balls of Bankun, then I realized it was hunger I confused for malaria. But that's just by the way. Yes.
So in a lot of the OPD cases, it was 40%. So I think there was a concerted effort. What do? We had a strategy using these pillars. I mean, it's not like a magic something. Everybody must put their hands to the wheel. We worked with the National Malaria Control Program under the Ghana Health Service, We work with NGOs, we work with regions, we work with districts, sub-districts, households. They are an important part of the whole thing because of how this campaign, there was a strong campaign on it. We met and there are different sides to that. It wasn't just about the nets. It was also about spraying people's houses. It was about making sure that ponds in mining sites and the mining companies were also doing their portion, you know, and then we were also distributing the nets. But the important one is that you have to get partnership with the household, because how do you distribute if they don't want it? Or even if you give it to them and they say they won't sleep in it. So a lot of education went into that, how to handle it, how to mend it, how to wash it, how to air it before you sleep in it. And it was continuous and regular. And children were also involved, and the nets were distributed.
Right.
Then now malaria has come to 20-something%. In a lot of districts, I think it's no longer the number one again. Okay, so it's a lot of things. All the advocacy was done around it. Workers were trained around it. Now the program has moved into malaria ambassadorship, which is being handled by forgotten the man's name, the UT gentleman.
Well, I can't remember as well.
Yes, yes. So he's a malaria ambassador. And then also they have also moved to seasonal malaria therapy, which is run in the northern parts. We have malaria vaccine being tried in I think 14 out of the 16 regions. Yes, so it is on trial. They are still following up on it. Okay, it's not really in routine yet, but they are trying on it. And so malaria has, so you see there are there's the policy part, then the participatory aspect, then the service delivery aspect. All of it must work. If you leave one out, then you will have challenges. But I won't say that we haven't had challenges. We're distributing nets, and 2 people per net. You go to a house, there are 5. They have 1 room, they have 1 bed. So you give them 1 net because you're supposed to give them 3 nets. If you give them 3 nets, the room is so small they can't hang it. So what do you do? Okay, so there are, in every step of the way, there are challenges over there. There are people who have small, like I said, small rooms. Because of that, because of the heat, they will not even sleep in the net. You have to find ways of meeting them in their local context so that everybody is met. It is efforts from our side, from their side also, because they must also agree that the other solution you are giving them, they will want to try it. Otherwise, if they give up, then your work is also at zero. So everybody's efforts brings up the change.
So is there any place where young people, for example, can go and acquire these skills in order to also take up the role of communicating for development?
Fortunately, we've been sharing our experience in an annual seminar, which we started about 4 years ago. So in some of the seminars, we were able to get collaborations with 2 universities. The WA campus of UDS, now they've changed their name to UBIS, University of Business for Development Studies. And so they have institutes a certificate program in C4D. at their campus, and it started just this year. And then also just here in University of Ghana, the School of Public Health have integrated C40 in their MSc Applied Social and Behavior Science. So those are the two places that we are working very closely with for people who want to develop skills and knowledge in communication for behavior change or behavioral science communication. They can also go to these places and acquire knowledge.
Let's talk about the media itself and how it can partner, in order to drive home this strategy, communication for development. But I can tell you that anytime issues like this come up, so for example, we're having this discussion, if somebody watching us now were flipping the remote control, just trying to see what's happening on another or other channels, and comes across where you have two politicians shouting at each other, talking about the same issues they've spoken about since 1992, it appears that for many of the viewers, these are the issues that excite them. And so when you have media stations that depend on the number of people who watch for their economic survival, then they turn away from issues such as the ones we have been discussing every Thursday on this platform. Issues on adolescent health are not sensational. They do not excite the viewer that much, the listener that much. Issues on lead poisoning, for instance, there's no politics in it. It's not that sensational, it's not that exciting. And all the other issues that have got to do with maternal health and so on and so forth. Even the media and the practitioners like myself need some communication in order to change our attitude towards the fact that, look, we don't always have to feed the people what they want. We also need to feed them with what they need, because this is what they need. They probably do not want it, but give it to them.
I'm very happy you are talking about this, because really, like I said, when we went to the site, the people said, we want radio, we want this, we want that. It's money. Unfortunately, a lot of the media houses, it's very difficult to even get discounts there. And we sit down and watch.
Meanwhile, we give free airtime for politicians. And forgive me that I don't like politics.
Politics is okay,
but some of the issues.
This is also very important.
It's just 2 hours. Just come and sit down. Let's discuss digitalization. Do you agree with Baumia? And we bring people who are not even experts in digitalization and digitization to discuss these matters. The finance minister delivers a speech, and it's party communicators, whether they have expertise in the field of economy or not, are the ones who come to sit and do the analysis politically, so at the expense of some of these issues that affect our development. But I'm saying those are the issues that also bring the money, because they fetch the eyeballs and the ears that the media houses need.
Maybe you have a better way of couching it. In my line of work, I've seen some of my colleagues pick the budgets, and we are analyzing for how much we are putting into women, into children, into health, because that is, for us, that is also our bread and butter. All this shouting about politics, about sports, about all that, I mean, if the things I have talked about are not properly laid down, we will not be there to be talking about it in the first place. So it's up to media houses to allocate these times to us, so that some of this education can go out. And then also, it also gives our population information that they need. For instance, COVID, there are a lot of confusion, misinformation, disinformation about the whole thing, okay? And some of them are, excuse me, but are heightened by the media sensations, okay? And so if they give us space, not just us, but whether it is health, whether it is education, the issues that come out, for us to come and talk about it, I think it will be more beneficial to everybody. We don't need much time. All we ask for is 1 hour a week to come and talk about it. There's a lot of issues on our water, on our sanitation,
right,
on our education system, on our health issues, so many social things, so many developmental things that we can talk about, and we don't have the space. We have to how do I say, fight with the politicians for this space to do the education. But we are doing development. The politician is doing development. We are also doing development. So give us some of the space.
All right. So as we wrap up, what would be your message to, some of the communities you've been to where you have advocated for some change in terms of their attitude? If some of them are listening now, what else would you tell them?
I'll tell them that we are happy they are with us. At least they have opened their doors to us, and we hope that they are going to continue with whatever we have been able to talk about, discuss, negotiate, so that they continue with the behavior change ladder on which they are. And then also ask that for other communities, they should always listen and see how best they can at least meet us halfway, so that their communities will develop. Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. Charity Nukwe is Communication for Development Officer with UNICEF, and we've been talking about communication for development in general, but we've also looked at how it can be turned away from theory into practical, and she has also been sharing some of her own personal experiences with us here on the show tonight. Thank you so very much, Charity. We'll be back here on Monday with another edition of Moomen Tonight. Until then, you have a very good night. News comes up at 10 p.m. Bye-bye. When the voices that matter speak, they speak to GBC. They speak on Moomen Tonight.
By some of your appointments, you appear to be creating a parallel civil service. 2020 is not too far away from today. Are we seeing a comeback?
Would you say that HIPIC truly served any purpose?
The debt overhang on the economy of our country was such that the country couldn't bear it.
We've moved more people out of poverty and hunger since 1992 than any other era in the period of Ghana.